What a weekend of NFL football. We have a new number one in the Tankathon standings, plus some news to get into involving coaching searches from around the league. It's the Jake Asman Football Show, and it starts right now.
Oh, yeah. It's time for the Jake Asman Football Show. Brought to you by BetUS. Expert betting odds and fantasy stats. So let's get into some NFL football. Brought to you by our friends at BetUS. So get your questions ready. Here's your host, Jake Asman.
Here we go. Happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas. Today is Festivus, so we can air out some football-related grievances as well. Appreciate everyone who tunes in to the Jake Asman Football Show. As always, we're presented by BetUS. Take advantage right now of their 150% sign-up bonus with your first deposit and their 125% bonuses with your second and third deposits. Great week ahead. If you're a sports fan, college football playoffs continue. NBA on Christmas is a huge tradition, and now we got 2 NFL games on Christmas as well. So bet on any sport, anytime, with our friends over at BetUS. Let's start with the Tankathon standings. Ladies and gentlemen, here is where things stand. Now, I highlight the Jets because that's my team. But as you can see on your screen, the Giants now have emerged as the definitive number one team in the NFL by being the worst team in the NFL. They're number one now in the NFL draft if the season were to end today. And when you look at where the Giants are and who they have left, they're this close to the finish line. They got to execute here down the stretch. They play home against the Colts this week and at the Eagles the last week of the season. They are right there at the finish line to get the number one pick. The Colts are much better than the Giants. They should win that game. The Philadelphia Eagles, they probably will need the game for playoff seeding, you'd think, but I guess you never know. That'd be interesting to see. If Philly doesn't need that game, right, they're locked into wherever they're going to end up being seeding-wise. But they try and win that game, or lose that game, I should say, so the Giants win that game and knocks them out of that number one pick. Because that's really the question. But you look at that win yesterday by the Raiders and how potentially damaging it could be. I mean, the Raiders went from in the top 2 to now all the way down to number 6 with one win. Now, a couple of these 3-12 teams are going to play one another here down the stretch. So you look at the tanking standings, there's still a path for this draft order to obviously change. But I'm taking a look at, the standings here that you see up there on the screen. And you look at where New England is right now. What an opportunity it'd be for the Patriots to get the second pick in the draft. They don't need a quarterback, which means they could take the first non-quarterback off the board. They could trade out of that pick and get even more picks. There's a lot of options for New England if they end up with that number 2 pick. Now, you look at the schedules here for certain teams down the stretch. That, to me, is the most fascinating aspect of all this. Because, as I just said, a couple of these 3-12 teams, they're going to end up playing one another. And when that happens, someone's got to win. Someone's got to lose. And that's going to impact the standings here. And I'll give you a specific example of that. You have the Raiders playing a 5-9 Saints team next week. But the matchup of all matchups is the 2 3-12 teams that go head-to-head. Titans, Jaguars. How does that play out? Titans, Jaguars. Number 3 team, number 4 team in the Tankathon standings. How does it play? How does it play? There could be major shakeup here down the stretch. Carolina winning, doing what they're doing. It's been something. But I think right now, I'd be shocked if the Giants don't end up with the number 1 overall pick. I just would be. A couple other things I wanted to talk about. Some takeaways from Week 17. I want to start with the Sunday night game What a brutal loss by Tampa. And give credit to Dallas. They're fighting. I think Mike McCarthy might have saved his job. Can you really fire Mike McCarthy when the team is playing this well for him down the stretch, playing this hard for him down the stretch? They have a chance, an outside chance, but a chance at a winning season. Dallas is now 7-8. I don't think the Cowboy job's going to open up, and that might be one of the more attractive jobs. Dallas has to play in Philly, and then they end with the Commanders. So it's not like they got 2 easy games down the stretch, but man, if they go 8-9, when Dak has barely played this year, and they were like 3-6 to start, I think Mike McCarthy saved this job, and that's a brutal loss for the Bucs. They controlled their own destiny. Now they don't. Now they need at least one more Atlanta loss if they're going to win that division. So that was a really difficult loss that we saw yesterday. Truly was. Now, some other things that I thought stood out yesterday from the NFL slate. I want to go back to Saturday. Ravens starting to get hot. I thought Mike Tomlin as an underdog, that's the move, and I was wrong. I got burnt by it. That was an impressive win by the Baltimore Ravens. Impressive win. I wanted to note that because that was one of my picks, and unfortunately, I got that one wrong. How about the performance yesterday by Jaden Daniels? 5 touchdown passes, including the strike with 6 seconds on the clock to steal a win from Philly. The Jalen Hurts concussion situation is something worth watching. Eagles have clinched a playoff spot, and they'll clinch the division with a win over the Commanders, with a win or a Commanders loss next week. I want to see who's that quarterback for Philadelphia here. And that obviously impacts something I mentioned earlier, the Giants in their last game. Brutal loss for the Cardinals yesterday. And I got to mention this. How about what we saw from Sam Darnold, man? How could the Vikings get rid of this guy? Right? You can't. Sam Darnold is the Vikings quarterback moving forward. They got to sign him long term. What do you do with J.J. McCarthy? I mean, look, you could have him be a backup for another year. Maybe you look to trade him. But I don't know what Minnesota is going to do with McCarthy, but I don't know if it matters. You keep Sam Darnold. He's legit. I mean, some of the throws he was making, outstanding. Speaking of a young, outstanding quarterback, Bryce Young is continuing to get better and better. Dave Canales truly has a good reputation of being a quarterback guru. Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, Bryce Young. We're talking about guys that have all got better under his tutelage. Something to be said for that. Give credit to Miami. I hate saying it as a Jet fan, but they deserve credit. They kept their playoff hopes alive. Big time performance by Devon Achane yesterday. 120 rushing yards, 70 receiving yards, had a touchdown. Miami has the Browns and the Jets left on their schedule. Both games are away. Both teams, though, are under 500. So we know the Dolphins struggle in the cold, but they struggle against teams with a winning record. Now they're playing 2 teams with losing records down the stretch. Can they win out? They haven't been eliminated yet from the playoffs. They need some hope. But can Miami win out? I mean, we'll see. They're still around. And those were some quick takes I had from the game. Saints at Packers tonight, Monday Night Football on ABC. I mean, look, New Orleans is not any good. Green Bay's rolling right now. I think Green Bay would be the pick. Let me check the latest spread over at BetUS just to kind of get a feel for this game. I mean, Green Bay, the line is now up to 14.5. I mean, honestly, if I were to bet it, I feel like you have to take the Packers, right? I mean, the Saints have just been that bad. But that's so many points. And I feel like a lot of people are going to be on Green Bay. But, I mean, after what Green Bay did going into Seattle last week and blowing them out, I don't know. I'd be weary of a spread that high, but you might have to do it. The final take I want to give here on the Jake Asman Football Show is I want to talk about my football team, the New York Jets. Mike Vrabel told Colin Cowherd he would take the Jets head coaching job. Mike Vrabel said, I would take that job.
I talked to Mike Vrabel. Mike said, he said, I would take the Jets job. I just don't know who the GM would be. I'd have to like the GM.
Here's the reality for Woody Johnson. If you're serious about turning the Jets around, you hire Mike Vrabel as soon as you're allowed to do so. As soon as the regular season ends and you're allowed to formally speak with him. You hire Mike Vrabel. He's currently a consultant with the Cleveland Browns. That's the guy you hire, Woody. Mike Vrabel won 9 or more games in 4 of his 6 seasons as an NFL head coach. He won 2 division titles. One season, they were the number 1 seed in the conference, and Derrick Henry only played in 8 games in the regular season that year. He has playoff wins over Bill Belichick and John Harbaugh. He went into New England and beat Tom Brady in his last ever game there in the playoffs. And he never had an elite quarterback. Mike Vrabel is a winner, a disciplinarian. Players respect him. That is the guy the New York Jets should hire. And if he's willing to take the job, and all it comes down to is he's got to feel comfortable with who the general manager is, then you know what? If you're the Jets and you're one of the few teams in the league that has an opening for both GM and coach, you talk with Mike Vrabel and you say, hey, Mike, who do you want your GM to be? Who are you comfortable working with? And you hire that guy. The Jets have talent. The Jets have a team that with better coaching this year is at least 9-6 right now and has a legit chance to make the playoffs. That is a fact. The New York Jets this year lead the NFL in losses in which they led in the fourth quarter. That's coaching. The New York Jets this season have lost 7 games by 6 points or fewer. That is coaching. If the Jets had Mike Vrabel as their head coach, they are at least a 9-6 football team right now. That is the guy you hire, Woody Johnson. He would take your job. He just wants to be comfortable with the general manager. And I believe that's fair. So if you're serious about trying to win, if you're serious about trying to turn this franchise around, the guy to hire is Mike Vrabel. Period. End of story. These are not jobs for first-timers. These are jobs for people who know what they're doing, for people who are not learning on the fly how to be an NFL head coach or how to be an NFL GM. The Jets haven't made the playoffs since 2010. They haven't had a winning season in a decade. It's a joke. It is an embarrassment. And if you want to turn it around, it starts by hiring people that know what they're doing, that won't be engulfed by the pressure of the media, the pressure from the fans. That's the guy to hire, Woody. He said he'd take the job if he likes the GM. That's the guy. Don't overthink it. You once said thinking is overrated, Woody. Don't think, just do. Mike Vrabel's your guy. I want to thank everyone who tuned in to another edition of the Jake Asman Football Show. Let me know down in the comment section what your big takeaway was from can you believe it? Week 16 of the NFL season. It goes by fast. I want to wish everyone happy holidays, happy Festivus, Merry Christmas to all. Once again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's show. If you're betting on any sport at any time, make sure you use BetUS as your official sports book. Thank you to everyone who tunes in. We'll have another show later this week with Cole Thompson with our weekly picks, and I'll talk to you guys then. Enjoy the holiday season, everyone. And, of course, once again, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to all.